Hey everybody, today's lesson is going to be on the major modes. So we've got our guitar neck chart out here, and I'm going to start off by writing out a scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. I'm going to continue that, D, E, F, G, A, B, C again, giving us 2 octaves of the C major scale. So one way to understand the musical modes is by understanding them from octave to octave. So here I've drawn a line, and you can see that this is called Ionian. Ionian is the Greek mode. I'm going to go ahead and circle it here on the fretboard. Ionian is the name for the major scale. So if we start from D and we just move equally through the alphabet, we're going to get the next mode, which is called Dorian. That's the Greek name for the second mode, Dorian. D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D. I'll go ahead and circle that here on the fretboard. I want you to go ahead and try and play along with these if you can as well. Now we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to start on E, and we're going to go from E to E, and all these letters in between are going to be the Phrygian mode. This is the third position, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E. Keep in mind that this is within the context of the beginning scale, so the key of C. Here I've circled it on the neck again. Let's try it from F to F. That's going to give us Lydian mode. F, G, A, B, C, D, E, and then back to F. The next one will be, of course, starting from G and then ending on G. This is called Mixolydian. G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I'll go ahead and circle that here in light blue. So you see we're kind of progressively moving down the neck. All of these are from the 5th string root, by the way. Let's go from A to A. Aeolian. This is also sometimes called the natural minor scale. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. So in this case, the A natural minor scale. Then we can go ahead and move on to the next one. B to B. This is going to give us Locrian. This is our diminished mode. B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B. So all of the modes function in this way, that whatever the parent major scale is, which we call Ionian here, they will then build off of each other that way. Okay, now I'm going to show you something different. Starting on the 6th string root, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. Right? We know that to be the G major scale, but let's keep it going. A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. Now we've got a shape or a pattern of sequential notes across the neck that create the Ionian mode or major scale from the G root. So this is a 2-octave shape, and here I've circled in yellow where the octaves are. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. This is actually a movable pattern. So if I started here on the A root, I get a new Ionian mode, right? So the Ionian mode is where it begins from, right? So because I started on A, I'm using that same pattern, A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, and then back to A, of course, so that will give me the A Ionian or A major scale. So this is a quick way of doing major scales all over the neck and getting access to them. You just have to memorize this one pattern. Start on the B root. Starting on B root, we got B, C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, and then back to B again. Oh, sorry, A sharp, and then back to B again. And that's going to give us the B Ionian or B major scale. So as you can see, we can move this around anywhere. Once we know this pattern and we've kind of committed this pattern to memory, we can pick it up from any specific position on the neck, and that same shape is applicable. So it's kind of like a chord shape in that way, that you can move it around once you know it. Let's start it with, we're going to call this E flat. F, G, A flat, B flat, C, D, to E flat. So now that we've have this pattern in our minds, we're going to go ahead and bank it here. And remember that this sequence is called Ionian. Let's take a look at another sequence. A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, back to A. So what am I doing here? I'm taking the same notes that exist in the Ionian mode from G, right? And I'm just beginning my pattern from the second position or the second note of G Ionian. And that's going to give me our next mode. And you see, it automatically builds a shape for you. So you can do it either way. You can do it by note name, you can do it by shape, you can do a combination of the two. And that'll start to help you understand and conceptualize the whole neck in a way that's pretty liberating. Let's start on B, C, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, back to B. Go ahead and highlight our octaves here so we know where those live. And that's going to give us our third mode. So before I showed it to you in one way, but now I'm showing it to you conceptually on the neck, how it actually is applied to the neck itself. And once you kind of get these shapes in your minds, you're going to have a lot of easier of a time kind of navigating around the neck. You can see in those positions the different chords that we make. Let's start on C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp. You notice how F sharp is the only sharp that's coming up? That's because we're in the key of G. Or we begin on G Ionian as our parental scale that we've built everything out of. Okay, go and circle the octaves, and then we could go ahead and bank this one too, and we can call this our next mode. So basically I'm reiterating what I did before, but now I'm trying to make it a little bit more clear to you about how these individual shapes look. And also I'm building them in a 2-octave form from the 6th-string root, whereas the example I gave you before was from the 5th-string root, and it was only a single octave. D, E, there's that F sharp again, G, A, B, C, D, E, and then of course F sharp again, G, A, B, and then C down here, and boom, D. We go ahead and circle our octaves. There we go. And that's going to give us the 5th mode. E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, and then back to E. Go ahead and do the octave thing again, and then we got another mode. Go ahead and bank that one. And you can start to look at these as like little patterns, kind of like a chord chart, but sideways. You'll see these written in different books different ways, but this is a really helpful visual tool that I really like. F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, because we began on F sharp, we end on F sharp, we circle the octaves. All right, one more for the bank, and now let's go ahead and start labeling these out. Dorian. A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, back to A. Phrygian. B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, and then back to B. Lydian. C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C. Mixolydian. D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D. Aeolian. E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E. Locrian, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E, back to F sharp. All right, so now we have all of the musical modes. We see kind of how they live on the neck, how these individual shapes exist. And now remember that each one of these shapes can be moved. So once you know the pattern, then you can move it to a new root and it will exist in a different key, but it will still be. Let me give you an example. E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, back to E. Go ahead and circle our octaves here. I just really want to sell the point to you here so you can see it visually, all right? Those are little triangles that show the octave range. So this is Aeolian. Right now, Aeolian in the key of G, or E Aeolian. E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, E, and then back to E. But what did I promise you? It is a movable shape, so we are going to move it. Let's bring it over here. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Just like I showed you before, right? So now we've got Aeolian from A, or A Aeolian, or natural minor. Let's try it on the C root. So this is Aeolian from C, so we're going to call it C Aeolian. C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, C. All right, let's try it here. Let's call this G sharp. G sharp, A sharp, B, C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp, and then back to G sharp. So this is a cool way of kind of being able to explain to yourself what notes exist within these modes, but also a way of navigating the fretboard that once you understand the pattern, you apply it from the root, you can kind of know where you're going. And it makes the fretboard seem a lot smaller and a lot more of a quaint place that's not so intimidating. So each one of these represents a mode. I'm going to label it with Roman numerals here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This relates to like the 1 chord, the 2 chord, the 3 chord, like that. Here I'm going to write out the Greek name: Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, Locrian. Each one of them also has a harmony associated with it. Ionian is major. Dorian is minor. Phrygian is minor. Lydian is major. Mixolydian is dominant. Aeolian is minor. Locrian is diminished. So for example, Dorian contains a flat 3. Phrygian contains a flat 2, flat 3, flat 6, flat 7. Lydian has a sharp 4. We're also able to see a different setup here that I've done. Whole and half steps. So that's why we've got W and H. So here are our shapes. Here are the associated harmonies. Here are the formulas. This formula relates to the major scale. And then here are whole and half steps written out for you. So you've got lots of different ways throughout this video to help you conceptualize the major modes, how they live on the guitar neck, how we can understand them in music theory terms, how we can build them, how we can modify a major scale in order to create specific modes. So for example, Lydian is sharp 4, so that means if you take a major scale and you sharpen the 4, then that given major scale becomes that Lydian. So if it was G major and you sharpen the fourth, it would be G Lydian. Same thing with Dorian. So these are like our formulas, just like we would build a chord chart. Hope this helps, and make sure to keep practicing, and everybody stay safe.